So as you might have picked up, we have a bit of a theme for today, and it's called Too Good to Be True. How many of you have had those stories, those moments when it's been too good to be true? Liz and I had one, and I want to share it with you, but I just need to give a little bit of background, a little bit of context. Our story of Too Good to Be True came on a beach in Durban, South Africa, but after we'd missed our flights from Johannesburg, South Africa to New Zealand, where I was supposed to be a groomsman at my brother's wedding. Okay. That is a long and sad story in itself. I'm not going to go there this morning. All I can say is that night, after bawling our eyes at the airport, trying to desperately find a passport that we couldn't find. We had two, but two of Liz's, none of mine. Then ending up in Pretoria on someone's floor, bawling our eyes out the whole time, realizing even if we did get a flight, now there's no way we're going to make it in time for the wedding. Add that, every time we get together as a family, my brothers love, they're like, hey, do you remember that wedding? We're like, yeah, there was awesome stuff. Oh, wait, Norman, you weren't there. Okay. Then, so we decided that night, after crying the whole night, we were like, nah, this can't be it. If we're not going to be able to make the wedding, if we can't get there, we need to just do something to celebrate. And so we booked a hotel on the beachfront in Durban, and we just drove down to Durban, and we're going to spend the holiday we had, which was supposed to be in New Zealand, a few days on the beachfront in Durban. We couldn't afford many days, so I think we had like 2 nights, so we had limited time. Anyway, we walking on the beach, and as we're walking on the beach, this guy comes up to us, and everyone's trying to sell you something there, everyone's trying to make a buck, but this guy comes up to us and he says, you know what, I've got a scratchy here for you, a scratchy, and if you scratch it, you can win instantly. You can win right here on the spot. We're like, whatever, dude, we're not. He's like, no, serious. You can win instantly. Just scratch it. If you win, if you don't, I'm leaving. You can go about what you're doing. So we're like, it's no skin off our backs. We'll scratch. So we scratch, and it says, you win. We're like, sweet, what have we won? And he's like, come, I need to take you to what you've won. Okay? Many of you have been down this road, I see. Okay. So once again, long story short, we end up at a timeshare exchange discussion or day program where they're trying to sell you this timeshare and you can't get out of it. Once you're there, once you're in the building, you can't get out. But all the way through, it's like, there's still a chance for you to win. You can still, and maybe, and even to right at the end, you get to spin a wheel. There's only like 2 opportunities on the whole wheel to win, but you can still spin to see if you win. Anyway, we walked out of there, our whole day on Durban beachfront. We've missed our flights to New Zealand. We should have known when he said you can win instantly, it's too good to be true. Today, what I want to share with you, some of you might think is too good to be true, but it's not. It's true. So the last while we've been in our series, Not a Fan, and we've just kind of been talking and working through what it looks like, instead of being fans, being followers, what Jesus have called us to. He's called us to be followers, not fans, and we've kind of dissected that. If you've missed out, if you haven't been here, I'm not going to go through all of it. Please go to our website, watch in your own time, and you can see what was shared. Last week, though, we had our awesome young people share, 4 of our awesome young people share their journey of fan and follower and how they've experienced it, I guess, where they are in their journey. And I just loved, I don't know about you, but I loved and appreciated their honesty and vulnerability and their willingness to share last week. So that is what we had last week. That was awesome. Thank you again to those young people who did. What I do want to take you to is just the process of following, because to try and set up and understand what we have for you today, which I know you're going to think is too good to be true, but it's not, it's true. But to get there, I just need to explain to you, the one sermon we had, we spoke about the process of becoming a follower. So often we can think, hey, you should be a follower. And it's like, well, how do I do that? What is that? And we read a story where Jesus called his first followers, where he called Peter and John and James, and where he called them to come and follow him. And in Matthew, it seemed as though it was quick and simple, whereas in Luke, who was writing to people like you and I, Gentiles, unbelievers, he wrote it and he set out the steps, I guess the process that had happened. And we see, okay, it's much clearer. It's not that hard, or it's not that scary or daunting. There's actually a process that it follows. And I just want to touch on that because that's going to inform what I'm going to share with you today. So the first step we saw in that process, and a slide should come up with this whole process, is sit and listen. We saw those first followers, they sat and listened. They got information about who God is. Their picture of God was fed into, was shaped, was molded, was directed by the information that Jesus gave them. Jesus was on the shore busy teaching, so they got that information. And that was the first step in the process. And so with that we said, God is not scared of your questions. He's not scared of your challenges with belief or with unbelief or doubt. He's like, bring on the questions because I've got all the information you'll need. Maybe there's some things that might be hard to understand, some things that we might not totally make sense of, but God invites our questions, and the first step of becoming a follower is information, getting that information. The next step was inconvenience. This is where Jesus asked Peter, hey, can you push your boat out? I want to get into your boat. God sometimes inconveniences us, says, can you do something for me? Can you serve here? Can you give? Can you get involved here? And that little inconvenience is like a little bit of a, okay, I'm growing, I'm stepping to the next phase where I've had enough information to know that maybe I want to see where this goes, and he inconveniences us to just take us that next step further. The next one is trust. This is where God then said to Peter, Peter, I know you're a fisherman. I know you've just been out all night trying to catch something, haven't caught anything, and I'm saying now in the daytime, after you've cleaned your nets, take me fishing. And Peter's like, whoa, God, and that whole story. But he says, take me fishing. God's going to ask you to do something you've done 1,000 times, but he's going to ask you to do it differently. And he's going to say, trust me. Trust me. When I ask you to do this, that's the next step. He's going to ask you to trust him with something. And then the final step after that is where Jesus said, okay, now follow me. Now that you've got the information you need, now that you've, I guess, shown your intention by inconveniencing yourself a little bit, now that you've learned to trust me, now follow me. And so we as a church, we as Papster, we're going to try and move you through these steps because our desire is that each and every one of you will become fully committed followers of Jesus Christ. I'll put it out there. That's what we're about. We want each and every one of you to become fully committed followers of Jesus' life, of Jesus Christ, because we believe that is the best life for you. And so we're going to challenge you in these steps. We're going to give you information. We're going to share with you what we can. And there's going to be spaces, environments where that can happen. And we're going to be intentional about doing that, whether it's in life groups, whether it's here in our teaching time, whether it's wherever it may be. We're going to maybe inconvenience you. At first, that sounds bad. But we're going to ask you, hey, do you want to take that step? Do you want to serve? Do you want to give? Do you want to help? Do you want to... And at first, it might be an inconvenience, but what you're going to find, and this is the beautiful thing, is that what once inconvenienced you is going to, as you keep doing it and as you grow in your understanding of God and your relationship with God, it is going to become the fuel to your faith. What energizes you and what gets you up in the morning, what was once an inconvenience is going to become a joy as you grow in that following. So then we also might say, hey, we're going to challenge you to trust God. And some of these things we can't necessarily do, but that's going to be the next step. And ultimately, we're going to be challenging you to be followers of Christ. Now, we can't do all of that at once. That's our challenge. While we'd like to, we can't do all of that at once. We recognize this is a journey and a process. But what is almost too good to be true is that what we have for you today is we want to try help out with that first step. We want to try help out with that first step of information, gaining understanding, helping shape your picture of God, giving you opportunity, resource, equipping you with what you need to know and understand and experience God through what He teaches in His Bible, through interactions with other Christians, through sitting and listening maybe to people's journey of being followers of God. In my journey of being a follower, yes, I read God's Bible. Yes, I spend time with other Christians and talk to them and share in faith. Yes, I share my experience, my faith of following. But sometimes something that I have found often energizes me, sometimes just helps me get a different perspective, sometimes shapes my picture of God in a different way than I'd ever seen or ever known before, is sitting at the feet of other Bible teachers, of other people who have interacted and are on that journey of following. And so last year, I don't know if any of you remember, last year I went over to America to some conferences where I had this opportunity. I went to conferences where they had a lineup of Christian speakers, Christian communicators who were all committed followers to Christ, students of God's Word, and they shared, I guess, part of their story. They shared what they understood and how they interpreted God's Word. And it was, I tell you, I've heard people express and say that often these kind of experiences, these kind of moments are like a spiritual gym, okay? A spiritual gym where for our physical bodies, we can go and exercise, work out. We understand and we know that as we exercise, we get stronger and our bodies get healthier and better. And so this is often that kind of experience. Sitting at other Bible teachers' feet, engaging with God's Word is like a spiritual gym where it helps grow your faith muscle, where it helps grow your experience of being a follower. Now, what I have for you this morning is we as a church, as leaders here at Papster, we want to give you your own personal home spiritual gym. Too good to be true? Believe it. Here's how we're going to do it. There is a group called Right Now Media. Right Now Media is an organization that has collected all the digital Bible studies, all the digital leadership talks and leadership tools, all the conferences, a lot of the conferences, not all, a lot of the conferences that happen, mainly in North America, in the Christian community. They've gathered all that digital content and they've put it into a media library. Now, I said to you, we as a church are committed to helping you in your journey in becoming a follower. And yes, we can't do everything, but this first step we are very serious about. So what we have done, Right Now Media, in order to get access to all that content, they have over 3,500 Bible studies on this website. All of this, you need an internet connection to access. Being Auckland, and they have the fiber rollout, this is a good thing. I'm sure most of us, if not all of us, have access to internet. How it works is they've got three main, or before we actually get to that, I'm going to ask Bells if she'll play the intro video for Right Now Media, and they'll just give a brief overview and explanation of how this is going to serve and help you. And remember what I said, this is your own personal home spiritual gym. We're not trying to sell it to you. Here's the good news, and what's too good to be true is we want to give it to you. Let's see what it is.
We're expanding our church library, but don't worry, we don't need you to show up with a hammer on Saturday. We've gone digital. Now everyone in our church can access a ton of great biblical teaching on video, anytime, anywhere. We know that spiritual questions don't just come up on Sunday. Any day of the week we might face issues about our marriage, or parenting, or finances. And we're always looking for ways to deepen our understanding of prayer, of missions, or of discipleship. That's why we've given you instant access to great biblical teaching videos for all ages. Stuff for kids, like What's in the Bible from VeggieTales creator Phil Vischer, and Paws and Tales from Chuck Swindoll. Youth resources from teachers like Eric Mason and Francis Chan. Marriage and parenting videos from Gary Thomas and Chip Ingram. And biblical teaching on a wide variety of topics from Tim Keller, Matt Chandler, Max Lucado, Dave Ramsey, Andy Stanley, Margaret Feinberg, Louis Giglio, and many more. It's a great way to supplement your daily devotional time, to find quality materials for family worship, prep for leading or teaching your group, watch Bible studies with your small group, and if someone misses a meeting, they don't have to fall behind. They can easily catch up on their own. Some groups may even have their members watch the video before the meeting, leaving more time for discussion when everyone is gathered. By making this library of great biblical teaching available to you when and where you need it, this is just one more way we hope we can support and equip you on your journey of faith.
How does that sound? I want to quickly take you through what you're going to see when you go to the site so that you can get your head around it. What I want to... I'll start here. So there's three main platforms on the site. The first platform is your video, your Bible study library, your digital Bible study library. This is over 3,000 different Bible studies by some of these different authors, speakers, and presenters. And all of these you can access free of charge from this website. This can be used in your, as they said, in your personal Bible study. This can be used in life groups, small groups. This can be used in wherever it may be. We're going to actually use one later on today because I want to show you what kind of content is on here. The next platform is what they call the customizable training library. This is primarily for leaders who want to equip and resource volunteers. And so all our leaders from the different ministries, we're going to take you through this later on, not today. We're going to show you how you can use it most effectively. Then they have the leadership events library. Now these are conferences, many of them that are on here, that I actually went to, paid to go to in America, cost me thousands of dollars, and we're going to give all that content to you and more for free with this leadership resource library. And so this is for anyone who is either a leader at home, a leader in their business, in their work, a leader here at church, a leader wherever. There's going to be content and resources on here, speakers that are going to speak directly and empower your life in the different leadership areas that you may find yourself. Now here's what's cool about this. This can be played and accessed on any internet device. I don't know if you know or realize, but in Western countries, in every country shouldn't say every, but in most Western countries, there are more screens than there are people. Did you know that? There are more screens than there are people. So if you have a mobile device that can use internet, access internet, if you have a tablet like an iPad or a whatever it may be, if you have a computer screen, if you have a TV screen that has access to internet, you'll be able to access all this content on any of those screens, devices. I want to put a disclaimer. The disclaimer is, and many of you I'm sure are maybe having this question, not all the content in here is necessarily going to be what we as a church would believe, what we as a community would teach, what we as leaders would endorse. But the same is true of our library, our physical library that is here. There's some content in there that maybe is different to our interpretation or understanding. And so you might come across, and you probably will come across some teaching that you're like, that's not how I understand the Bible, or that's not how I understand it to be. And that's fine, that's great. And we're not worried and we're not afraid by that. If you have any questions with that, if you do, please come and talk to us, and we'd be happy to chat and share. And I actually see this as an opportunity to get more wise and intelligent about our faith as we engage and interact with maybe some things that are a little bit different to what we might believe or we might teach. So that is just a disclaimer, so you are aware of that. And if you have any questions, please come and talk to us about that. Here's the part, as I said, that is almost too good to be true, is that the leadership here at this church have decided we are so committed to wanting to empower, to wanting to help you in your journey of moving from a fan to a follower, that we have decided we will fund the subscription to this resource. And for all of you, it is free of charge. That's good news. Sounds like, reminds me of grace. No, but okay. The one thing I will say is, if after you've been watching, if after you've been enjoying and finding this to be beneficial and helpful in your understanding, creating your picture of God, in your growing in your faith journey and experience, if you do feel moved and prompted, but only by the Spirit, not by any of us, if you do feel moved and prompted to donate towards this, feel free to do that. But it's in no way an obligation. We are committed, and we've put it in our budget for this year. We're going to provide it to you and anyone who would like it free of charge. Okay, that's how committed we are to helping you with this first step of moving from a fan to becoming a follower. So I can hear you all asking, how do I access this, right? Okay, grab the flyer that's on your seat. Grab the flyer that's on your seat. Here are the steps in order for you to use this, engage with it, and be blessed by it. The first step is email. Now, if we have your email, there is an invitation sitting in your inbox right now. Okay? We sent it this morning. If we have your email, there's an invitation sitting in your inbox right now. If you don't find it, maybe you've put as spam everything that comes from Papster, and it's in your trash. I don't know. Maybe look in your filter. If we don't have your email, you can give us your email on the bottom of this form, and we'll send you an invite. Or you can send us your email to info@papster.co.nz, and we will send you an invitation. After you've gone to your email, after you've given us your email, the next step is to sign up. And the sign-up process is pretty easy and simple. There's steps that they take you through. If you feel you're going to struggle with these steps, if you feel you might need help with these steps, we have the steps to sign up printed out at the information desk. Feel free on your way out to grab a copy of just a step-by-step how to sign up, because that is step number 2 in order to access your Right Now media. Once you've signed up, then your next step is to watch. This tool, this resource is only going to be as effective as you use it. Like any tool, like any resource, if we don't use it, doesn't matter. Okay. So, your next step after you've signed up is to watch. You'll create your own profile. After you've created your own profile, you'll create your own username and password. Then every time you go in, you'll go into the Papster Right Now media site. And we'll explain more about that later. So that's your step 3 is to watch. And step 4, the people from Right Now Media, this is what I love about them. They are also committed to helping people with this first step of becoming followers of Christ. We pay a subscription based on our membership. But they've said to us, you know what? If your people want to share this resource with their friends, if they want to share it with people that maybe don't know Christ, they can do it free of charge. So your next step is, if you are enjoying the content, if you are finding it useful and you think there is someone who might benefit from this, then you are welcome to share it. And to share it, send us their email and we'll send them an invite. It's that simple. Okay. Is that awesome? That's cool. Now, just want to quickly give you a taste of what this might mean. So we're going to go in, we're going to sign up. Bells is up there at the back. She's going to sign us into the site so you can have a look, have a feel for what it's like and see what you're in for. And once we sign up, I'm going to ask Trace to come jump up, because we're going to invite the kids up. And so we'll have a little music for the kids to come up, because we're going to actually play a little kids feature and we can see what that is like. So, Bells is busy signing up. You'll go to the Right Now Media site. There'll be your username and login, and you'll have created your own password. And as you sign up, so that is one of the kids' birthdays, if you want to use Bells's one, I think. So this is what it will look like. So there's our Papster site. You can see our logo. And the first dashboard there, running all the way along, is what we as a leadership team have recommended for you to watch. So we've gone and watched all of those, and we're saying, hey, this could be useful, this could be valuable. As we do different series, as we do different things, we're going to keep changing that. We're going to keep recommending and updating. So you're going to have a challenge to try and keep up to date just with what we're recommending, let alone go through everything else that is in the site. So that's the first dashboard. Then it keeps going down, and every topic imaginable. So whether it's the most popular that people are watching, whether it's for youth or for kids. Let's go into the kids one right now, Bells, because this is something that I haven't even touched on. I said there's 3 main platforms. There's another platform, and that is just for kids. Parents, you're going to be wanting to listen to this one. This is all your Christian content for kids. Animations, stories, all the different things here, free of charge for you to use whenever you want, on any screen, on any device. So we're going to invite the kids to come down because we're going to watch one of these stories. So are there any kids here? Come on down to the front. Come on down to the front. Find a spot, find a seat, and make sure you can see the screen, okay? Okay, next one over, Bells, number 2. There we go. Okay, can you guys all see the screen? So when you go home, you're going to ask mommy and daddy, you're going to say, have we signed up to Right Now Media yet? Okay, you're going to remember that. When you go home from here, you go ask your mommy and daddy, you say, have we signed up to Right Now Media? Because there'll be some stories just like this one that we can watch. So we're going to watch this one. And it's from a man, his name is called Max Lucado. And he's going to share with us a story. Let's watch.
We're going to read The Boy in the Ocean. The little boy rolled over in his bed, and he opened his eyes. And through his window, he could see the ocean. Big and blue, rolling waves, water crashing on the beach. The little boy stood at the window, and he searched for the end of the ocean, and he couldn't see it. He could see the ships on it. He could see the birds above it. He could see the horizon stretched across it. But the little boy couldn't see the end of it. He couldn't see the end of the ocean. Would you like to play in the ocean? His mother asked. And the little boy stood on the edge of the water with his mother. And she took his hand and he waded into the surf. And when the water covered his feet, he looked up at her. And when it reached his knees, he took a breath. And when the wave rushed against his chest, she laughed, and he did too. And the two sat in the sand and let the waves splash around them. God's love is like the ocean, my little boy, she said. It's always here. It's always deep. It never ends. God's love is special. The little boy spent the day playing near the ocean. He counted the starfish and he built sand castles and he searched for shells. Most of all, he watched the ocean. He could see the clouds above it. He could feel the tide within it. He could taste the salt inside it, but he could never see the end of it. He couldn't see the end of the ocean. And that night, as the moonlight stretched across the sea and landed on his face, he listened to the waves slap, slap, slap against the sea. Go to sleep, my little boy. his mother whispered. And the ocean will not leave. The ocean will not change. The ocean is like God's love. Always here, always deep. It never ends. God's love is special. So the boy slept with the sound of the ocean in his ears. The next day, the little boy looked out a different window at the mountains, high and tall and white-tipped, touching the clouds. The little boy looked from side to side to see the end of the mountains. He couldn't see it. He could see the trees growing among them. He could see the snow glistening on top of them. He could see the birds flying around them, but he couldn't see the end of the mountain. Would you like to hike the mountains? His father asked. And he took the boy's hand, and together they started up the mountain trail. And when the leaves scattered over the boy's feet, he looked up at his father. And when the wind shook the tall trees, he took a breath and squeezed his father's hand. And when they looked out over the great valley, the father smiled, and the boy did too. And the two sat on a rock and looked around them. God's love is like the mountains, my little boy, the father said. It's always here. It's always big. It never ends. God's love is special. And the two spent the day playing in the mountains. The boy splashed in the creek. He picked flowers in the meadow. He listened to the singing birds. And most of all, he looked at the mountains. He could see the sky above them. He could feel the wind blow through them. He could hear the water that bubbled between them. But he could never see the end of them. He could never see the end of the mountains. That night, as the moon appeared from behind the peaks, the boy thought of the mountains and he smiled. Go to sleep, my little boy, his father whispered. The mountains will not leave. The mountains will not change. The mountains are like God's love. Always here, always tall. It never ends. God's love is special. So the boy slept with thoughts of the mountains in his dreams. The next day he ran on the beach and he swam in the water and he chased his puppy up the mountain trail and he looked for flowers. And when the day ended, he and his parents lay on the grass and they looked at the night sky, stars everywhere, twinkling, shimmering, diamonds in the dark. He looked as far as he could to see the end of the sky, but he couldn't see it. He could see the moon yellow and round. He could see the clouds puffy and fat. He saw a star race from one side of the sky to the other. But he couldn't see the end of the sky. Would you like to count the stars? His father and mother asked. And so they tried. 12 here, 24 over there, but there were too many. And when he reached 100, the boy looked up at his father. And when the wind turned chilly, his father held him close. And his parents looked up into the big sky and became quiet, and so did he for a while. But then the boy spoke. God's love is like the night sky, he told them. It's always here. It's always big. It never ends. God's love is special. The boy, the mother, and the father stayed for a long, long time near the ocean, close to the mountains, beneath the sky, surrounded by God's love, and they smiled.
How was that, boys and girls? Okay, you can head back to your seats now. Remember that and tell your parents we're going to sign up for Right Now Media. Yeah. Okay, the kids have had their turn. It's now our turn. Once you go into Right Now Media and you go to the Bible study library, for our main teaching today, we just wanted to give you a little bit of a taste. And the one we had for you was, before we go there, Bells, the one we had for you was how to grow your faith. But I'm looking at our time and I'm realizing we're going to maybe get you out here a bit late if we do that. So Bells, let's go over to 24:6. Yep. And we'll do, I say, number 2. Enjoy.
In the book of Genesis, we learn that God spoke the universe into existence. One minute there was nothing, and the next minute, shazam, there was light. For 6 beautiful heavenly days and nights, God went about creating something out of nothing. On the 7th day, he created nothing out of something. He created stopping. On the 7th day, God threw it in park, kicked back, and relaxed. Now, later in the Old Testament, God gave the Hebrew people many laws, 613 to be precise. Some of these laws apply to things like borrowing an ox from your neighbor, or your responsibility to help your enemy's donkey that stumbled under a heavy load. Many of these Old Testament laws may seem antiquated and obscure in our modern world, but there are 10 laws that apply to all people in all times. Most of us are familiar with the 10 Commandments. Love God above anything else, don't worship idols, and don't take the Lord's name in vain. Honor your parents, don't kill, commit adultery, steal, lie, or covet. The 4th and longest commandment is the one we seem to forget most often. Perhaps that's why it begins with the word remember. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the 7th day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, you or your son or your daughter or your male servant or your female servant or even your livestock or the sojourner who is within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made the heaven and the earth, the sea and all that's in them, and he rested on the 7th day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. If the 10 Commandments were all written out on an apple pie and you got to choose which slice to have based upon size, choose the 4th. You'll get more than a third of the pie. In fact, it's longer than all the other commandments that come behind it put together. The first 3 of the 10 Commandments concern themselves with our relationship with God. The last 6 have to do with our dealings with each other. The 4th commandment acts as a fulcrum between God and humanity. The Sabbath commandment embraces the wealthy and the poor, the citizen and the illegal immigrant. It pertains to minimum wage workers and to students. It even covers animals. The 4th commandment applies equally to men, women, and children. It's made to protect those who believe in God and those who don't. It's followed by humanity, and it's observed by God himself. After God gave the commandments to Moses, centuries went by. And during this time, God sent the prophets to get the Hebrew people back on course. But they kept getting caught up in more and more bureaucratic rules and regulations. They had good judges and bad judges, good kings and bad kings. They're exiled for decades and then returned home. Centuries and centuries pass. And then one Sabbath morning, Jesus stood up in his childhood church and read from the book of Isaiah. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, for he has anointed me to proclaim that the captives will be released, that the blind will see, that the oppressed will be set free, and that the acceptable year of the Lord is here. Well, what does Jesus mean by the acceptable year of the Lord? The acceptable year of the Lord is the Jubilee year. Every week, the Hebrew people had a stop day, and every 7 years, they had a sabbatical year. The sabbatical year in ancient times had special provisions to let the fields go unharvested, which allowed the poor to glean grapes and olives, and for wildlife to regroup. But every half century, a special year called the Jubilee year was supposed to occur. In the Jubilee year, if you were a slave, you were set free. If you owed money, you got loan forgiveness. If your farm had been foreclosed on, you got it back. The Jubilee was a kind of a holy reset button on life. Well, when Jesus read this passage about the Jubilee year, the mother of all Sabbaths, everyone got really quiet. And then Jesus said, "Today you have seen this scripture come true." Jesus was saying something radically new, that he is the Sabbath. He's the Jubilee year. Jesus declares himself Lord of the Sabbath. He said, "You're not meant to save the Sabbath. I am meant to save you." You see, at the time Jesus had started his ministry, the Sabbath had turned into something it wasn't meant to be. People had added so many derivative laws and amendments to the fourth commandment that it wasn't a celebration anymore. It had turned into work. Now, Jesus didn't come to abolish God's laws, especially not the Ten Commandments. Rather, he came to point like a compass toward the intent of the laws. And the intent of the Sabbath, and the word simply translates stop, is the exact opposite of rules and regulations. It's said that Jesus came to keep us from being condemned by laws that we couldn't keep, and that's true. But Jesus also said he didn't come to take away one jot or tittle of the law. So when the commandment says don't kill, Jesus says don't even be mad at somebody. The intent of Sabbath is holy rest. Jesus came because he wants the best for us. He wants joy and life for us. He wants to put the jubilation back in the Jubilee year. Let me pause and tell you a story about one of my earliest memories of coming to rest. On the morning of the last day of fourth grade, everyone in my class was given a fountain pen. These pens represented a rite of passage. We were moving up to cursive writing. Now, during recess on that last day of school, I climbed to the top of the jungle gym. I let go with my hands, and I moved from this crouched position to standing upright. While standing there on the roof of the world with my arms outstretched, a thought came to me. Why not do something while I'm up here? I took out my fountain pen and I decided to disassemble it like we had learned to do in class that day. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't seem to get the pen apart. So I took the nib between my teeth and twisted. Success. However, the thrill of victory was eclipsed by the sight of my pen breaking and falling to the ground. Well, quick as Einstein, my mind turned to the mathematical question that dogged much of my childhood. How can I hide this? Well, I climbed down off the jungle gym pondering this question, and I was seized by a teacher who marched me towards the school building. The teacher stood me in front of a mirror and asked if I thought what I saw was funny. Well, in front of me was a little kid with home-cut hair and a Goodwill t-shirt on. He was covered with ink like a Rorschach test. His big front teeth were outlined by indigo gums. I broke out laughing. I foamed ink bubbles from my nose. Of course it was funny. It's the funniest thing I'd ever seen. Well, the next morning, my whole family took off for the day, leaving me alone so that I would learn a lesson. Now, leaving me alone at home was kind of like punishing a kid for not eating his vegetables by making him eat ice cream. On that day, I rambled through the woods. I read a brand new Hardy Boy book. I spent hours watching the clouds float by. 10 months in school as a fourth grader, relative to a fourth grader's entire life, is roughly equal to 5 years in somebody my age. No wonder it seems like it takes forever for summer to come when you're 10. I'll never forget that first day with all of summer stretching out before me. My misadventures with the fountain pen had led me to one of the most holy days in my life. The Bible says that rest is holy and that God is rest and God is holy. Therefore, rest is holy. For me, a feeling of joy and anticipation occurs before my stop day every single week. If anything, it's even more joyful and renewing than that first day of summer years ago. Now, everyone needs rest, not just a 10-year-old boy. We need rest from being hurt. We need rest from our labors, rest from our worries, and rest from our fast-paced world. You and I were designed to get away once a week from the speed of change, from our jobs, from information overload. Now, more than ever, Jesus calls out to us in this 24/7 world, and he says, "Let me teach you, because I'm humble and gentle at heart, and you'll find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy to bear, and the burden I give you is light." Jesus is Lord of the Sabbath, and he came to give you rest.
So church, that was just a taste. As I said, we here as a leadership at Papst are committed to equipping you and helping you in that first step for now. We're going to find ways to help you and challenge you with the rest as we continue. But please sign up to Right Now Media, and I've asked the group to come up and sing that song again as we respond and celebrate. Because while it says 10,000 reasons we have to sing and praise God, today we've just given you 3,000. Enjoy.
Please rise.